Okay. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So for you guys that are here just for today, our class is about obstacles in the path of being basically a good Muslim. All right? You know what an obstacle is? What is an obstacle?
Something that stops you from reaching your goal.
Something that stops you from reaching your goal. Awesome. Awesome. What's your name, genius?
Sammy.
Sammy. MashaAllah. Sammy. Brilliant. Awesome response. An obstacle is something that stops you, stands in the way in between you and your goal. What is our purpose in life here? Why are we here? We're here to play video games, party, get lit. Huh? Everybody laughed when I said that. What are we here for? Why are we here?
To get education about our faith.
To get education about our faith. I ain't talking about in the classroom. I'm talking about in the world. Why are you here? Why were you born? Why were you here? What were you put here to do?
You were born to have a basic life, to have a life to be good and
To be good?
Yeah, to be
It's a very general statement.
Someone who the world admires and not
to be someone that the world admires. Interesting. Keep going.
and,
Digging deeper and deeper inside that brain of yours. Go ahead.
Okay, when you're born, you're a human who's someone who has to be maybe change something or have a good community
Okay, got you. So basically, you are talking about just being overall awesome in the world. Someone that people respect, look up to, you change the world, right? You affect change. All right, but what is the main goal of being here in the world? Yes. Why are you here?
You have to follow Allah.
Follow Allah.
And you have to be nice to people.
And be nice to people.
Follow the Quran.
Follow the Quran. Keep going. Deeper. Okay, pretty much. You were put here to worship Allah. That's what you were put here to do. Everything else is secondary. Getting married, having children, driving nice cars, living in nice homes, working, all of that is secondary, and it's all tied into the overall goal, which is to worship Allah. So if we're talking about obstacles in the path of serving Allah, then we're talking about things that prevent you from reaching your goal of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He put you here to do. So we are now arriving at number 4. We've covered 3 so far for my class. What was the first one for you high schoolers? What was the first one that we covered? Obstacle number 1 was what? What was the first obstacle? Your main enemy. Shaitan. Shaitan is by far your biggest obstacle in achieving the goal of serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being an obedient servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shaitan is your biggest obstacle. By far. Alright, number 2 was what? What was number 2? The things that prevent you from being a good servant to Allah. Number 2 was what?
Our desires.
Our desires. What do you mean our desires? What does that even mean? What do you mean our desires?
Our wants and needs.
Our wants and needs? A little deeper. What do we mean our desires?
Like wealth and maybe fame, popularity.
Wealth, fame, popularity, all of the things that the human being covets. All the things that we desire. Yeah, we're just reviewing. You weren't here for that. You can just listen. All right? All of the things that we desire as human beings, these are the things sometimes that stop us in our tracks or provide or serve as an obstacle to us becoming good worshipers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our desires, the things that we want, the things that we desire. All right? What was number 3? Number 3, which was the last one we covered. Number 3, from the obstacles that prevent us from being good servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Frustration with the troubles of life.
Frustration with the troubles of life. All right? As you get older, We said that life is in between what? Two things. Who remembers? I know we weren't here last week, but the week before. So the night before we have class, I want you guys to review. Look over your notes. What did we say that our lives are in between two things? What?
Calamity and prosperity.
Calamity and prosperity. Sometimes things are good. Sometimes things are not so good. So how do we balance those things? Well, how do we balance those two things?
Being grateful, thanking Allah when you're prosperous, and then
Being grateful when you're prosperous, and
then praying for forgiveness when there's calamity,
something else.
or having faith in Allah.
No, something else.
Patience.
Patience. All right. So when things are going good, we're grateful to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We're grateful. All right. And when things are going not so good, as they will, the only thing that we can do is become patient. All right. So we balance the frustrations, our frustrations in life, using two things: patience and gratitude. Patience when things are not going so well, and gratitude when things are going great, things are awesome, everything is going your way. Then you need to be grateful to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And how do we show gratitude to Allah? What is some of the ways that the Prophet ﷺ would show Allah that he was grateful? Just saying, thank you, God. Thank you, Allah. What are some of the ways that the Prophet ﷺ would show gratitude? Praying more, doing extra prayer, fasting, right? He would fast, to show his gratitude. Yes?
Thinking about him and everything he did.
Thinking about Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in everything he did. Remembering Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in everything that he did. Very good. All right, so when Allah blesses you, you do more, not less. You follow me? Okay, so, and we said that the things that happen to you in life happen to you for a number of reasons. Why? Zubair. Things that happen to you, calamities that happen to you in life happen to you because of what? Bad things happen to you in your life because of what?
Allah's testing you.
Allah is testing you. Things that Allah has already decreed to happen to you, there's no way of escaping it. There's no way of getting around it. It's going to happen to you. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أَخْطَأَهُ هَذَا, that if one test miss you, نَشَهَهُ هَذَا, then another one is going to hit you. And if Allah decreed a test to come to you, how does it miss you? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا أَخْطَأَكْ لَمْ يَكُنْ يُخْطِئُكَ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكْ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكْ لَمْ يَكُنْ يُخْطِئُكَ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكْ لَمْ يَكُنْ يُصِيبُكَ وَمَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ يُخْطِئُكَ. What hit you was never going to miss you, and what missed you was never going to hit you. But he said in another hadith that if one calamity misses you, another one is going to hit you. How does a calamity, something that Allah decreed to happen to you, how does that miss you? How does it miss you? Because sometimes maybe you made dua for something. Oh, Allah, protect me from this particular thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers your dua. So instead of afflicting you with that thing, He removes it from you at that time. But then it'll catch up to you later. So even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may decree something else for you, all right, that thing you will still be tested regardless. All right. So what is another reason why we experience calamities in our lives or experience trials, tribulations in our lives? One is because this is what Allah decreed to happen to us, and there's no escaping that. And what's number two?
Would it be like a punishment?
As a punishment, as a result of your own actions, things that you have done to yourself. Things happen to you in life. If you didn't write that down, you need to write that down now. Calamities happen to you in your life, either one, because Allah decreed for you to be tested with this thing, or two, because of what you have done to yourself. All right? Sins that you have committed, and now this is the repercussions of your sins. Do you guys think that when you do bad deeds or you disobey Allah, do you think that comes back to you? Does that come back to you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It comes back to you. What you put out into the world comes back to you. You do good, you get good. You do bad, bad comes back to you. That's just the natural order of life, the natural order of the world. There's always going to be balance in the world. And this is one of the ways that Allah maintains balance. Allah decrees everything that is to take place in our lives with respect to our wealth, our children, as well as the people that we come in contact with. And in some of these things there is good, while in others there is trial and tribulation, which is also good, hidden within the walls of these trials. Sometimes Allah tests you with something, and then outwardly it looks like it's a bad thing, but in reality it's actually a good thing. How come you can't tell when Allah tests you with something whether it's bad or good? How come you can't tell? What is the reason when Allah tests you with something? Why do you see it as a bad thing and then later on it turns out to be a good thing? Why can't you see it to be a good thing from the very beginning? Why can't you see it to be a good thing from the very beginning? Because you don't know the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God is not affected by time. As a matter of fact, Allah is time. Right? Allah is not affected by time. Meaning there's no past or present or future tense when we're talking about God. It's all time. It doesn't affect Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He tests us with something, at the moment He tests us with that thing, He already knows what's going to happen to us in the future as a result of that test. We don't know the future, so at the moment we're tested with that thing, it seems like the worst possible thing that can happen to you. Oh, woe is me. Why am I being tested with this? Because we can't see the future. If we could see the future, we could fast forward in our lives, we would realize that what we are being tested with now is actually going to make us greater later. All right? You look at, for example, the story of Prophet Yusuf. How many of you are familiar with the story of Yusuf? Right. What happened to Yusuf? So many bad things happened to him. What happened to him?
He got thrown into a well.
He got thrown into a well by his own brothers. Threw him into a well. What else happened after he was thrown into a well?
He was sent to jail.
Before he was sent to jail, his brothers did what?
They sold him.
They sold him into slavery. They sold their own brother into slavery. Horrible things, man, for a sibling to do to his sibling. Threw him into a well and then sold him into slavery, never to be seen again. And this is how he ended up in Egypt. This is how Yusuf ended up in Egypt, sold into slavery, right? And then once he got older, the lady who raised him tried to seduce him, and he refused. And what happened to him as a result of that?
He was put into jail.
He was put in prison. Then on top of being in prison, he told the guy that was leaving prison, mention me to the king when you leave so he can get me out. And Allah caused the shaitan, or allowed the shaitan to cause the man to forget. And so therefore he ended up staying in prison a few more years so he could learn a lesson. And then finally, when he gets out of prison, this is where his journey to greatness starts. The first thing the king does is exonerates him. He's free. He went back to the women who accused him of doing what he did. They said, no, he didn't really do it. So cleared his name. That was number one. His name got cleared. Number two, the king appointed him as the treasurer over the money in Egypt. And then number three, he ended up becoming a king. Now, if Yusuf had known when he was thrown into a well from the very beginning that he was going to end up being a king later on, it could have probably saved him a lot of headache and frustration, right? He would have never worried about it because he knew that at the end of this road, at the end of this journey, I'm going to end up being a king. But you don't know the future. So this is why when Allah tests you with things, as you see them in front of you, you get frustrated. You get upset. You don't understand why. You start to question God. Why me? Why are you doing this to me? I don't deserve this. I'm a good person, right? Because you don't know where this test is going to lead you. If you would just be patient and let things unfold the way that they are supposed to, you will see that at the end of that test, there's greatness waiting for you. We have to trust the process. Trust God. Trust Allah. He knows what He's doing. You understand? We don't know what we're doing. Most of the time, we don't have a clue what we're doing. Even as parents, as your parents, sometimes we don't have a clue what we're doing. We just make it look good. We come in, we put our keys on the counter, we answer all of your questions like a parent is supposed to. All the bills are paid. We come in with food, right? You got a roof over your head. This broke, we run to the store. That broke, I need this. I go pay for that. I want to buy this online. I pull out my credit card. I buy that for you, right? We look like we got it all together. But let me tell you something. As parents, sometimes we don't have a clue what we're doing. We just make parenting look good. I'm just being honest with you as a parent. Okay? So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Asa an takrahu shay'an wa yaj'al Allahu fihi khayran kathira. Perhaps you may hate a thing and Allah has put abundance of good in it. Perhaps you may hate a thing and in it is a great amount of good in it. All right? So when you make reservations about life's mishaps, when you say to yourself, perhaps these things are going to make me greater later, when you start to say those things to yourself, understanding the story of Yusuf. The story of Yusuf is a great example. Is if you trust the process, there is greatness waiting for you on the other end. If you trust the process. If you don't follow the process and you want to leave and you want to go do things on your own, right? What's going to end up happening to you? What ends up happening to you? Bad things happen to you. Why? Because you are going against the process, the divine process of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah's way of molding you into being great. But if you take another path and you decide that I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, you're going to end up in trouble. There's another example in the Quran about this, and that is the story of Prophet Yunus. What happened to Prophet Yunus? He got thrown off a ship. But before then, what did he do?
And he tried to preach Islam, but nobody would listen to him.
He tried to preach Islam to his people. No one would listen to him. They make mockery of him. They make fun of him. As we said before, truth goes through 3 stages. You guys remember that? What are the 3 stages truth goes through? I just reiterated this in your class just this afternoon. What are the 3 stages that truth goes through? At first is what? Disbelief
or mockery.
You're ridiculed. People say you're stupid. You're crazy. No way. I don't believe you. Right? That's the first stage of truth. People ridicule you. And the thing about it is that when you don't think for yourself and you want to be with the crowd, the in crowd, you usually end up on the wrong side of history. Anytime you see someone taking a path and everybody's opposing him, everybody's saying he's crazy, everybody's saying he's wrong, everybody's saying that he's nuts, he's losing his mind, he's lost his marbles, usually that is a telltale sign that he's right. But we're so busy trying to be a part of the in crowd that we never see that. We never stop to be objective enough to see maybe this guy is on to something. Because we're too busy trying to fit in with the in crowd. Everybody's saying he's crazy, so I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and say he's crazy. But the fact of the matter is that the person is not crazy. So the first stage of truth is that people will ridicule you for it. Say you're crazy, you're insane. What did they say? What did they call the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? They called him crazy, majnoon. What did they call him?
Mad poet.
A mad poet. Sha'irun, kadhab. They called him a poet. They called him a liar. They called him majnoon. Magician, sahir. They called him all types of names at the very beginning. What is the second stage of truth? What happens next? After people ridicule you, they want to do what?
Fighting them physically.
They fight against you. Why do people fight against truth? Because people what? They fear. No, they fear what they
Don't understand.
They fear what they don't understand, and they hate.
But they can't conquer.
They hate what they can't conquer. You guys are good. The wheels are spinning today, right? People hate. People fear what they don't understand, and they hate what they can't conquer. They can't get you to lay down, so they despise you. They hate you. They want you to just disappear and go away. But you're not going anywhere. You're not going away. They couldn't do anything with the Prophet ﷺ. He wasn't going anywhere. He told his uncle, Wallahi, if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand for me to stop preaching Islam, I would die before I would do that, or Allah will give me victory. Allah will either give me victory or I will die in pursuit of victory. But I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. People hate that. They hate the fact that they can't get you to change. Right? They can't conquer you. So they hate you. All right? So the next step of truth is first that you're ridiculed for it. Second is what? People violently oppose you. They're going to fight against you. All right? And then third,
It's not to believe you.
it's accepted as self-evident. It's truth. Finally, people say, you know what? This guy is on to something. Maybe he is right. But this is after you ridiculed me, after you fought against me, right? And then finally, at the end of it all, you realize that, wow, this guy is really on to something. He was on the truth from the very beginning. This is the 3 stages of truth. Every truth goes through these 3 stages. So the Prophet ﷺ is a clear example of that. So when you understand that your life is in between prosperity and calamity, sometimes good things are good, sometimes things are not so good, it helps you to better process the things that are happening to you in your life. And it will stop you from deciding to leave Islam and totally abandon your religion because you don't understand. Most of the time, when people get frustrated with the things that are happening to them in life, these are the reasons why people commit suicide. These are why people start drinking and using alcohol and drugs. They numb themselves because they can't deal with the reality of what is in front of them. This is why people start to engage in reckless behavior, just doing all types of crazy things, not really caring about what happens to them as a result. All of this is as a result of being frustrated with what is happening to you in your life. And the beauty of Islam, the beauty of being Muslim, is that we have an answer for why things are happening to us. We have the answer. And we have the solution. Because Allah never sent down a disease, except that He sent what with it? The cure. You understand? We never have a problem except that we already know what the solution is. All right? The Arabs, they have a saying, كُلِّ امْرِئٍ, that every human being, طَبِيبُ نَفْسِ, is his own doctor. You know what your problems are, and you know what the cure is. Only you can help you. All right? We're paying, psychiatrists. We're paying, people to come and evaluate us and help us or whatever. And the fact of the matter is that you know what your problem is. You can sit in front of me as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, as a psychologist. You can sit in front of me and tell me your problems all day long. But only you know what the real problem is. And only you know what the solution is. Because if you know what your problem is, that's half of your solution. Understanding the problem, ma'rifatul illa, nisful ilaj. Understanding your problem is half of your answer. You understand? Yes.
Alright, so sometimes mostly like Muslims, they're like they like forget this part and they're like, oh my God, you do this bad thing, you're automatically a bad Muslim. Like you just engage in like all these bad things when it's not your fault, but then they usually blame you. Like there's many examples of this. Like usually in my Sunday school I go to, there's like a group of these girls who are always they always show off and stuff like, I'm a Muslim, I do I have all these shuras, I know this, but then really, when we do something bad, like we get annoyed, we don't say anything, but they sometimes look into our lives like, oh my God, all these boys talk about his music. Like sometimes, maybe in Sunday school, I get bored. I sometimes like, maybe sing something, and then they're like, that's haram, you can't do that. And me and my friends were like, oh, let's talk about like video games and stuff. So then we talk about like, maybe like Fortnite, Call of Duty, and they're like, they have guns in that. Are you crazy? You're haram. And I'm like, I know way more knowledge in Islam than you. You shouldn't like be like. They're like, oh my God, I know this, and I'm exactly a right Muslim. Mm-hmm. And then it's the same like outside of there. Like maybe like you know how there's like community of countries usually. There's just something called the Arab League. which is like not just Arab countries, but like other Muslim nations, not all of them, like some. That's like in one, and usually what the whole league follows is Sharia law, which is like, oh, if this, I know it's hot in the Middle East, but if this lady ever wears shorts, then I will like put her in prison and all that really weird bad.
So what's your take on all of that?
Like they say like. Oh,
No, what's your take on all of that? How do you feel about all of that?
I feel like
It's wrong? Do you feel it's wrong for people to judge you because they think that they know more than you, or they think that they're better Muslims than you? Do you think that that's wrong?
Yeah, I think it's wrong. Like
Yes, it is wrong.
my
No,
cousins,
stop.
they live.
Stop. It is wrong. It is wrong to be judgmental of other people. It is. Right? Einstein said it is from the intelligence of a human being to observe without judgment. To watch and look at a person, to observe, but to withhold your judgment. Not judging the person. Because you don't know that person's why, you don't know that person's story. Everyone has a why. Right? You have a why, you have a why for why you do the things that you do. And if I walked a mile in your shoes, I would understand you. You understand? And if you're not going to take the time out to learn why the person does what they do, then don't be so quick to judge them. All right? So, moving on to number 4, obstacles in the path of servitude, overestimating ourselves. I put an ayat on the board, surah number 33, ayat 72. What does it mean to overestimate yourself? What does that mean? To overestimate yourself. My group, my class. What does it mean to overestimate yourself? What does that mean? Zubair.
Thinking you can do something you can't.
Thinking that you can do something that you can't. Okay?
Having like a really high self-esteem, like thinking too highly of yourself.
Thinking too highly of yourself. Good.
Evaluating yourself.
Over-evaluating yourself, or over-evaluating your capacity. What you have the ability to do. All right? And this is something that serves as an obstacle because it means that you believe you can do more than what you can actually do. And as human beings, we are naturally overestimate ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ, Allah says in this ayah in the Quran, he said that we offered the trust of free will. Inna aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal-ardi wal-jibal. Now we offered the trust of free will. Everyone know what free will is, right? The ability to choose, right? And as Denzel Washington said, that with the creation of the internet and Facebook and all of these other things, we now have free will on steroids. Meaning, you can go into anybody's life, judge them, come out of the person's life, go into somebody else's life, judge them. You are the judge, the jury, right? You are God, right, today. Because you have free will. You can say what you want to say, do what you want to do, and you always can fall back on this, don't judge me. So you can do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say, and then on top of all of that, tell someone, don't judge me. When you don't like someone, you just block them. When someone posts something on your Facebook page or your Instagram page or your Snapchat and you don't like them, you just block them. All right? You delete them. You erase them from your life completely. You see what this social media is doing to us? It puts you in this position where you're like untouchable. You can get on social media. You can say whatever you want to say about this person with no fear of repercussion, no nothing. That's who you are. So we have free will on steroids. I have 1 million followers. So what? What does that make you? Don't talk to me unless you have the same amount of followers that I have. Because you got 2 million followers. All 2 million of them, none of them know you personally. Right? You bragging and boasting about how many followers you have. None of them know you personally. If you died tomorrow, how many of your 2 million followers on Facebook or Instagram is going to come to your janazah? Right. You go figure. Nobody's taking off of work to come to your janazah. And when you die, they'll just unfollow you and go follow somebody else. I mean, you think about the logic in that. And it will use that as the standard of being someone. I have 2-3 million followers. I got 20 million followers. So what does that make you? Nonetheless, Allah says that we offered the trust of free will to the heavens and the earth and the mountains. فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا, and they all refuse to accept the free will. Meaning angels, the heavens, the earth, the mountains, none of them have free will. They all are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah says, فَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, and the human being said, I'll take it. Then Allah described the human being. He said, إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. The human being was ignorant and oppressive. Ignorant because he doesn't understand the responsibility of free will, and oppressive to himself because if you understood the responsibility and the accountability that comes along with free will, you would have just accepted to be completely obedient like everything else. Human and jinn are the only creatures of Allah that have the ability to choose freely what they want to do. Which is why the whole Quran only addresses who? The whole Quran only addresses human beings and jinn. Allah doesn't address the heavens and earth. Allah doesn't address the animals. Allah doesn't address the angels. Allah addresses the human being. Ayyuha thaqalan. Thaqalan in Surah Al-Rahman means human being and jinn. The two creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation that are responsible for themselves. Yes?
So when the ayah, when Allah says that the heavens and the angels refused free will, then humans are like, no, we want it. Is he talking like figuratively, or is was it like really like
meaning Adam, that he offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, they all refused. He said, وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, and the human being took on that trust, meaning Allah offered the same trust to Adam and his progeny, and Adam and his progeny decided to take on the choice of free will. Yes. And as a result of that, with responsibility comes accountability. You can never take on a responsibility except that you will be accountable for how you fare with that responsibility. In Islam, responsibility and accountability go hand in hand. Which is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a responsibility, He always warns us about the repercussions of failing in that responsibility. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. All of you are shepherds and all of you are responsible for your flock. As a metaphor for, as the Prophet ﷺ was a sheep herder, so a lot of his metaphors are, relative to being a sheep herder. So you'll find a lot of his metaphors, you'll find a lot of his references are to being a sheep herder. He said, all of you are shepherds and all of you are responsible for your flock. Meaning, all of you have responsibilities and all of you will be accountable for your responsibility. He said, رَجُلٌ رَاعٍ وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. That a man, a husband, is a ra'in, he's a shepherd, and he's responsible for his family. And he's accountable for neglecting his family. He said, وَالْمَرْأَةُ رَائِيَةٌ, and a woman is a shepherd. وَمَسْئُولَةٌ عَنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِهَا, أَهْلِ بَيْتِ زَوْجِهَا, and she is responsible for the household of her husband. How she runs her home, how she takes care of her home. That is her responsibility. Her children, the household, that is her responsibility. And she will be accountable, right, for how she handles that responsibility. He said, أَلَا وَكُلُّكُمْ رَاءٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Isn't it the fact that all of you are shepherds and all of you are responsible for your flock? You as a child, you are a shepherd, and you are responsible for the things that Allah has made you responsible for. And right now, as a child, you are responsible for being obedient to your parents, and you are responsible for whatever responsibility your parent put on you. That means cleaning your room, that means washing the dishes, that means doing your homework, that means going to school and get good grades. These are all responsibilities that is on your shoulders. And you are responsible for that. Follow me? So, overestimating ourselves, Allah said, وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, the human being said, will carry the responsibility of freedom of choice, free will. And then Allah said, إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. He was oppressive and ignorant for doing so. So this is the state of the human being. We are naturally the type of creatures who overestimate ourselves. We put more on ourselves than we can actually handle. And this actually ends up becoming an obstacle in being a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is because one of the reasons that we overestimate ourselves, pay attention to this. One of the reasons that we overestimate ourselves is because we associate better with quantity instead of quality. That's the reason why. Let me write that down. One of the reasons why we overestimate ourselves is because we associate better, right, with quantity, not quality. Operative phrase here, quantity and quality. What does that mean? One of the reasons why we overestimate ourselves is because we associate being better, or what is better, with quantity instead of quality. What does that mean? What does quantity mean? Are you future engineers in here?
The amount of something.
The amount of something. How much of something. We think how much money you have makes you rich. Right? I'm sure all of you American children, you always believe, you have been taught that the amount of money you have is what makes you rich. That is a farce. You have been fed a lie. And I'm sorry to tell you. Tonight, I break and shatter all of your hopes and dreams right now. Having the amount of money you have does not determine how rich you are. If that was the case, rich people would not abuse and use drugs at the rate that they do and would not commit suicide at the rates that they do. Because they wouldn't have to. They would have it all. So obviously being rich or having a whole bunch of money and riches and popularity, right? You see how some of these stars, right? Rappers, singers, at some point in their career, they usually break down and go crazy. Give me some names. Britney Spears, right? She shaved off all of her hair, right? And literally went crazy at a point in time in her career. Martin Lawrence, the comedian, he jumped out of a cab in the middle of the highway and started shooting the gun in the air. He literally lost his mind. Went crazy. Anyone else? Huh? Lindsay Lohan. Right. Anyone else? Kodak Black. Who the heck is Kodak Black?
He's a rapper.
All right. Well, how did he go crazy?
He went to jail.
He went to jail?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's crazy.
12
For some people, that's normal.
12 times.
He went to jail 12 times.
That's the bull who said he was better than Tupac.
That's the guy who said he's better than Tupac. Then he really lost his mind. He really lost his mind if he uttered that comment. But the point that I'm making is, why do these people, at some point in their careers, if they have it all, they're very popular, uber popular, many of them boast about having so many cars and homes, they wear huge gold chains, they're jumping out of cars and limos, and the cameras are always on them, right? Kanye West. Come back. Kanye West is not even Kanye West anymore. When you look at him, he looked like somebody's old dad, like he lost his mojo. I personally don't even think that that's Kanye West, but nonetheless, that's a whole nother conversation. The point that I'm making is that how is it that these people could have it all, having it all, and then literally break down in this manner if having popularity, having wealth, having all of these things, followers, and if it's all what it's cracked up to be, how in the world do these people go crazy? Because that is telling you that lifestyle at some point becomes overwhelming. It becomes overwhelming because they are associating making it to the top and being successful with quantity, not quality. You understand? It's not about how much. It's not about how much you have. It's about how content you are with what you do have no matter how much it is. There's some people who don't have much, but they have it all. There's some people who are poor, who are the wealthiest people in the world. And what do I mean by that? How could you be poor and still be wealthy?
I mean, rich in knowledge.
It means like
Rich in knowledge? Okay.
it means like you don't have like as much as money as other people, and but you still have a good life, like you enjoy your life.
Right. You don't have as much money as other people, but you have a good life. You have a good family. You're connected with your family. You know, you're healthy, because it makes no sense to have a whole bunch of money and you're not healthy. You're dying, right? Right? Very famous rapper, Craig Mack, just died.
Oh, I know Craig.
Right? How do you know Craig Mack?
I know every singer in history. I remember music a lot.
Craig Mack, who died 46 years old, not too much older than me. Right? 46 years old, and is gone. And I mean, when you think about that, and a lot of these people that you guys look up to, that you consider to be so popular and famous, a lot of these people are some of the poorest people on the planet. Poor spiritually, poor morally, poor psychologically, but you got all of the money in the world. So one of the reasons that we overestimate ourselves is because we associate better with quantity instead of quality. What do I mean when I say quality? What do I mean when I say quality? What is quality?
If it's like a good way or a bad way.
If it's a good way or a bad way. What do I mean when I say quality? We associate better with quantity instead of quality. We associate being better with how much instead of the quality of how much. Right? Yes.
How good or how bad it is.
How good or how bad it is. Very good. Very good. I like this. Okay, we're going to close up in a few minutes. Go ahead, he's good. All right? So all throughout the Quran, I want you to pay attention to this. This is the last point before we stop here. All throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes references to having more as being wrong. Pay attention to that. All throughout the Quran, Allah makes references to more being actually wrong. In Surah number 6, ayat 116. All right, Surah number 6, ayat 116. Surah Al-An'am. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. That if you, O Muhammad, obeyed most of the people on the earth, they would lead you astray from the path of Allah. Meaning what? Meaning what?
Most of the people are wrong.
Most of the people are wrong. If you follow the majority is majority of the time wrong. That's why they're called the majority. They're not majority because they're right. The more numbers, we're looking at numbers and we say, well, if all of these people are saying this, then they must be right. No, that's not what that means. Allah said that if you obeyed most of the people on the earth, they would lead you astray from the path of Allah. That shows you that it's not about quantity, it's about quality. If you obeyed most of the people on the earth, they would lead you astray from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Does that also apply to like when you're like looking about some issue in Islam that's like debatable and like, you know, a bunch of like the researchers or like the informed people in Islam are like talking about it? Like, does it also apply to like how many people support?
Very good. He said, what about if we use it from an Islamic standpoint and we're researching an issue in a religion and we see that the vast majority of the scholars say this or the vast majority of the scholars say that. Does that automatically mean that they're right? No, it doesn't. There are many issues in Islam where they call the consensus or the not consensus but the vast majority, jullatul ulama, that most of the scholars agree with this position. But there are many issues in Islam where most of the scholars, a jamhur, Most of the scholars agree with this issue, and there may be one or two scholars that take a different position, and the one or two scholars who took a different position are actually correct. Many issues. Off the top of my head, I can think of one issue off the top of my head, and that is the paying zakat from a woman's personal jewelry. Most of the scholars say she does not have to pay zakat from her personal jewelry. However, Abu Hanifa, a small group of scholars that agree with him, took a different position that she does. And the weight or the evidence, the opposite. The vast majority of the scholars say she does. And Abu Hanifa took a position that says she doesn't. And Abu Hanifa's position is very weighty. The evidence proves that he brings forth to support his argument are very weighty. And he's only one scholar. But the vast majority of scholars take a different position. So to answer your question, the vast majority of scholars taking a position on something doesn't always mean that they're correct. Doesn't always mean that the position is correct.
So the scholar is saying like a non-working, say, housewife should pay zakat from the jewelry that her husband.
Yes. Some scholars say that the woman who does not work and she has jewelry that she owns, if she, as a year goes by on that jewelry, she has to pay zakat on that jewelry. Yes.
It's whack.
Well, don't say it's odd or whack. It's a position, and they have some evidence and proofs to support their point.
My father told me that in France they have like an anti-Islamic government. Like they don't like Muslims. They haven't banned them, although they want to, because if they ban them, like there's going to be a lot of drama. So usually what they do is that sometimes there are like attacks on Muslim communities, and since France is like one of those places.
But I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this.
Yeah, I'm going like they're one of those places where like they love money, they have the wine and everything, and they have the models and everything. That's technically French culture and stuff. But
what does that have to do with what we're talking about here?
Yeah, it does have to do because
make the connection for me quickly.
The connection is like they put quantity and not quality, and they're like making fun of Muslims for it and everything.
Okay.
Because like Muslims usually come there as refugees, since it's like the best place, like from Syria and Afghanistan, but really like they don't really get treated well because they're like, oh my God, this lady has a hijab. Wow, look at this. I'm with the model right here.
Absolutely, you're right, 100%. Last ayah, and then we'll conclude here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in surah number 12, ayah 103, وَمَا أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And most of the people will not believe, no matter how diligently you try to guide them. Most of the people are not going to believe. This is Allah consoling the Prophet ﷺ because he's looking at the small group of Muslims that believe and then this large group of people who disbelieve. And Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ, most of the people are not going to believe in you. No matter how much you desire to see them guided, they're not going to believe in you. So if you're looking for the big crowd, let me clarify that for you. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Look at the few people that you have, but they really believe in you. Opposed to having all of these people who say they believe in you, but they really don't. You understand? So here again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So when we're looking at ourselves, overestimating ourselves, saying I can do this and I can't, is because we associate being better or having more with quantity, not quality. And if you look at yourself and you concentrate on the quality of who you are and what you have the ability to do, you will put yourself in your own lane of competency, and you will not put yourself in a situation to overburden yourself with something because you realize who you are. Overestimating yourself is as a result of not being realistic about who you are. And we'll talk more about that inshallah ta'ala next week. We'll stop here. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama taslima kathira wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. You guys, I don't know if you had any questions. If not, you guys can go. Yeah.
But didn't Islam become like the third biggest religion in the world?
The third what?
Biggest religion in the world.
The third biggest religion in the world?
No,
So what?
It's the biggest religion in the world.
The second
The
biggest.
second biggest.
The second largest religion in the world. Okay.
So Allah was saying that, you know, you're never going to get the big crowd. But I guess maybe not all, like all Muslims aren't exactly. Like,
Yeah, but when you look at even when you look at Muslim Islam being the second largest religion in the world, out of the 1.6 billion Muslims around the world, how many of them are actually true followers and adherers to the religion? Not many.
Some are terrorists.
Not many.
Yeah.
Many Muslims don't even pray 5 times a day, the bare minimum of what actually makes you a Muslim. You understand what I'm saying? So the 1.6 billion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called Ibrahim a ummah by himself. He was only one person. He said, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan. That Ibrahim was a ummah, was a nation all by himself, and he was one person. Because here we're talking about quality, not quantity.
Okay.
Follow me?
Yeah. Thank you.
Y'all go ahead and pray Isha, inshallah. Yeah, I'm coming. I don't know if you guys had any questions or comments, inshallah.
What's up with this?
What? That's mine. That's why.
What's this for?
Well, then this one is yours. You took the wrong one. Here, take that and go ahead. I don't know if you guys had any questions or comments about what was presented. If you don't, inshallah, I'm going to go pray, and then I'll come back and I'll answer any questions. Do you guys have any questions or comments? So I'm going to go pray, inshallah, and then I'll come back and I'll open it up again for a few minutes for questions and answers, inshallah. Shukran, jazakumullah khairan, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.